Hey guys, it's Julie Malillo. I'm a life coach in Manhattan. My website is yourdreamslifecoach.com. Some quick tips today for people who don't like conflict. I am one of those people and I used to be a lot worse at it. So here are some things I figured out to be able to be really clear with people without making so much drama and people freaking out as much. First, you want to express your feelings and problem solve. And you want to avoid put downs, shaming other people, raging at people, and feeling like, okay, I've let it build up, so now I can do this, which is the way that a lot of people handle it. If you've been alive, you've seen this a lot. I would actually say that that second version is really common. And people aren't always yelling, but there's a lot of like put downs of people. Like, oh, really? Oh, you're going to do that? Oh, well, you should just be ashamed of yourself. There's a lot of that style out there, and it's not an effective style. It's kind of a bullying way to do things. And so a lot of people feel like the only options are to do that style or just say nothing and don't make waves and keep quiet. And there is another option. You don't have to just keep your mouth shut or attack people. And the other option is to really be expressive, focused on solving the problem, and not attacking anybody. And I can just tell you, you would be amazed at how direct and clear you can be with people. I was amazed. When I started doing this, I expected people to just freak out and start yelling at me, and I was so surprised how calm and chill people were and actually appreciative. The truth is, people want to know what you're thinking, um, and they feel respected when you express something clearly and you're not putting them down and you're expressing something on the same level. Like, hey, I'm opening up, I'm telling you something, not because I'm trying to put you down, but because this is reality. You would be surprised that people actually do feel respected when you do that. So, here's some examples of how you can put this into practice. Okay, let's say that there's a really long line at the store. We've all been in this situation where it's just ridiculous. It's not just a little bit busy. It's like this is taking 10 times as long. I've been here for 40 minutes and there's 10 people in front of me. What? We've all been in this situation, right? So, what most people do, and you can see this, watch the other people in line, watch what they do. Most people don't say anything. They silently stew in their anger. Just, oh, they might text someone and say, I just can't believe it. And then they don't express anything and they don't problem solve and they're just very angry. It's not really healthy to carry around anger like that, and it doesn't solve the problem either. Then you have a few people who get so mad they start yelling, and they get up there and they're like, how can you, and okay, you're expressing yourself, but you're not problem solving, and it's making a lot of drama, and then it's making it even harder to solve the problem because now the cashier is like upset, maybe yelling back. The line is even slower now. So most people feel like, well, I don't want to yell at them, so I guess I have to just keep quiet. Well, the third option is to go up and problem solve and express your feelings in a neutral way. This is very scary for most people that aren't used to doing it. It was for me before I started doing it. Now I'm very used to it. So you can say something like when they're like, oh, how are you? How are you today? And you're like, well, actually, I'm frustrated because the line is really long. Neutral statement, it's a fact. It's a fact that I feel that way. Now I feel like I've expressed myself, but I've done so in a way that I didn't take this person down a notch. I wasn't like, well, look, because you're so slow, blah, blah. I wasn't taking this person down. I was just, this is a fact of the situation. I'm frustrated. The line is long, as you can see. And this is a real story at this point. So I said this to a cashier, and she immediately got defensive or offensive, as I like to call it, because when you're defending yourself, you're not attacking. And it's weird. People use the word defensive, but it's really offensive because if you say something to someone and then they start yelling at you and attacking you, that's not being defensive, that's being offensive. So she got offensive and was like, well, And I was like, wait, hold up. I'm not blaming you. I'm just saying that the line is long. And she's like, well, yeah, it is long. And I'm just saying that I'm frustrated. And she's like, well, okay. Yeah, that's reality. So then I go to Problemsolve. And I was like, it looks like there's not that many cashiers up here, but there's like 7 employees standing here, but they're not checking anybody out. And again, she started getting mad and was like, "Oh, well, they're doing other things." And I'm like, "Okay, they're doing other things. Well, how come they're not at the registers though?" And she was like, "Well, because they're not on registered duty or whatever, because the manager didn't put them there." And I'm like, "Oh, so that's why." And I'm like, "Well, the manager really needs to put the employees, behind the register so the line can move. I wonder why the manager's not doing that." And it was weird because the guy who was the manager, who was one of these like 7, 8 people just standing around, it was like his little bunny ears perked up, and I could just see him like thinking. And then he ran over, and like 30 seconds later, there's cashiers there, and the line's moving. The line's moving really fast. So it's like the manager just kind of spaced for like, I don't know, an hour, which does happen. I mean, we all have our space cadet moments for sure. And we also have our moments where we just, maybe don't like the job we have, or we're tired or whatever. So the problem got solved, and I got to express that I was frustrated, and there were no casualties in this exchange. And the cashier, I think, assumed that I was going to be yelling at her and attacking her, and like hadn't quite realized that no, that's not what I'm doing. And then she caught up with that pretty quick and was like, "Oh wait, you're not yelling at me and attacking me. I guess I don't need to be yelling and attacking you when you're not doing that to me." Now, granted, she started out in that style, but again, as I said, that style is so common that don't be surprised people are using that. And in the end, I felt good about it because the whole line was moving and I wasn't just stewing with anger, right? So that's something that you can do. Now, it takes some practice and it takes some work on making sure that when you're talking to people, you're not coming from a place of like, you're a horrible cashier. I can't even believe that, if you're coming from that place, it's really not going to work because people pick up on it. And that's just, it really is putting them down. And there's no need for it. Now, there are people, like I use that example, that will take it as a personal attack when you really are just problem solving and expressing yourself. But if you continue in this very neutral style, usually they will calm down pretty quickly when they realize what's actually going on. That's been my experience. I've never had someone just totally freak out. They've always like become chill pretty quickly. So this is something that you can use with almost anybody, but you have to remember to keep your remarks neutral and to not have anything manipulative in there, to not have anything attacking in there. And that's hard for a lot of people because people are so used to using that other style and either just, I'm not going to say anything, I'm going to wait this out, or okay, I've waited long enough and now I'm going to let you have it. That is a very common style in our world today, and it doesn't work very well. So this is something that everyone can use. But again, you have to be neutral about it. Like, let's say that I'm waiting at a bar, my friend is really late, and I'm feeling frustrated because, I don't know, I'm feeling neglected or like I'm not important because they're really late. Now, if I'm really thinking in my head, how dare they? How dare they do this to me? Like, they're terrible. If I'm thinking all that and I try to have a conversation with them about it, that's going to come through. And so, number one, you have to figure out, like, the truth is, most of the time, people really aren't doing this to ruin your life. Most of the time, they have some reason outside of you for what's going on. So that's one thing to get, that almost nothing is personal. And that is just how that person is. Take it or leave it. So that's an important lesson to get. And when you get that lesson through your head that take it or leave it, you have less resentment because you kind of expect, like, okay, this is my friend who's always late, and I'm actually late a lot. So it's kind of a funny example to use because I actually don't care when people are late at all. If it's like half an hour, I don't care. But I know a lot of people do care. So that's why I'm using this example. So let's say that I was really mad about this. The person comes, they're late. Now, again, I can express and say, feeling really frustrated that I was waiting at the bar for 30 minutes alone. And I feel frustrated because I was kind of bored. I felt a little awkward sitting here by myself. And I started to feel like maybe you don't value our friendship, relationship, whatever, all that much to be late. And I was wondering if we could problem solve some ways to make sure that we meet up at the same time so I don't get stressed out. So let's try to figure out what is going amiss so that next time, we don't have any headaches with this. So when you say something like that, everything I just said was expressing and problem solving. And at that point, we could dive into not talking about why you're such a horrible person and I'm better than you and you're awful, which is not what we want to do. We also don't want to dive into, well, why are you yelling at me? Well, why are you yelling at me? Because that's not going to get us anywhere. But now we can dive into the problem solving. Like, well, what is going amiss? Okay, it's the weekend. They just want to chill out. They don't want to be so rushed like a work day. So maybe we can just meet an hour later to make sure that they can get there on time. Or maybe they will go to the bar first and text me when they get there. And because they don't mind sitting alone for a bit. And that way I don't have to wait. There's a million ways to solve a problem. There really are. As long as you both want to solve the problem, you can. So that's the kind of conversation you can have with anybody. Express, problem solve, don't put down, shame, or rage. So let me give you an example of years ago. This was so many years ago. It was probably like 15 years ago. I don't remember exactly how many years. It's a long time ago. But I came out of a store and someone was like at the mall. Came out of a store. Someone was walking by and almost hit into me. He was just like, la, 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 la. And he almost hit into me. And I was really mad. I was like, oh my gosh, this guy could have knocked me over. I can't believe he did this. And so I went right into anger. And I felt kind of like justified in my anger because he almost knocked me over, which, is kind of justifiable. But the way I dealt with it was not good. So this is something that I think a lot of people can relate to is being in this situation. You're just so angry that you don't handle it well, right? So instead of saying to him something, I just glared. I glared at him so much. I gave him a look like, what would your mother think? I gave him this like look to try to shame him, is what I realized that I had done. And I know I had done that because the man was like startled. And then he's like, oh, I'm sorry. Excuse me. And he looked scared of me, like, whoa, this lady's crazy. And I realized, whoa, I just gave him a really powerful shaming look. And it like hit me. That's not how I want to handle this. I don't want to go around giving people shaming looks and making them feel like there's something wrong, there's something wrong with you and your character, you horrible person. That's what you do when you shame someone, and there's no need for it. So from that day forward, it kind of woke me up. And I was like, I want a way to do this that's better. And so that's when I started doing this new way. So what I would do now if someone did that, I would say something in words. I would say something like, whoa. I like to say whoa a lot, especially because I live in New York, because it doesn't do anything except for state reality. Reality is I'm saying whoa because you're in my space. And we can go from there. But it like alerts them, hello, you're in my space. So I say whoa a lot on the sidewalks here in New York because people do that. They will almost knock you over sometimes. And when they do that, I like to say whoa, and it also lets them know that I'm there. because sometimes people just don't realize that you are literally there and that they can knock you over. I would have said something like, whoa, and I would have said something like, I don't think that you just saw me. That's stressful to me that you didn't see me there. I would probably say something like that, but not say it in a shamey rage kind of way. More just like a neutral, like, whoa, you didn't see that I was right here. You know? And now this is the thing as far as problem solving. This is a stranger you're never going to see again. If this is someone like maybe a coworker, someone that you cross paths with, paths with, I probably would say something and say like, hey, when you come around corners, would you make sure I'm not there? I don't want to get knocked down. Have a nice day. I'd probably say something like that. But at the mall, a stranger, probably never going to see them again. So I'd probably just leave it at that. So what I'm really doing there is I'm just expressing how I feel and reality. Hey, and it's important when you do that to use words that really do say how you feel. Don't get all poetic with it. It's not the time to dwell on your feelings. It's just the time to express reality. Like, you almost hit me. But saying it in a way that's just about you, not about them. So I think it's better to say, whoa, I'm here, than it is to say, you almost hit me, because that can sound really shameful. So in general, focus on like saying words with you, but don't use jargon. Don't get all poetic with excuse me, you need to listen to how I feel. That's shaming. That's putting someone down. That's saying you have to pay for your mistake by listening to my boring speech about my inner feelings. You don't want to do that because really nobody cares. You just want, for your own sake, to express out of assertiveness, don't knock me over because I exist and I'm here. And you exist and you're there, and that's cool. But let's not have either of us knocking the other one over. It's as simple as that. That's just your basic assertiveness without making conflict. So yeah, that's something that you can do, and you can start doing it right away and practice it. And if you start getting a lot of people raging at you, or if you just get really bad reactions, you're probably not doing it right, because it's a very neutralizing thing to be doing. You want to neutralize the energy. You don't want to add to it and instigate and make more conflict and try to put them down. You want to just say what's there. And it works really well. Today, actually, I was in a store. This is why I thought of this. And it wasn't crowded. There were 2 employees behind the register. It was me. There was one guy behind me. And so I get up there with my 2 items, got my card, and ready to go. And the guy picks up one of my items, turns around, and starts chatting with the lady, which she's a pretty lady. Can't blame him, but I also just want to buy my stuff, right? So he's like, oh, really? So, like, what happened that weekend? Oh, did you? And they're not talking about work. They're just chatting. And he, like, forgets that he's at work, and he just keeps chatting. Like, oh, like, their dog, though. Is their dog getting older? How big is that dog nut? Its fur is growing, right? The fur is a little bit longer. And I'm really just like, what do I do here? Now, again, I could do the shaming. Excuse me, sir. I could do all this horrible, shameful stuff. No, there's no need for that. So I simply said the situation. I said, excuse me, could I check out? And that's the thing. You can do this in a very friendly, upbeat way. There's no need to be like, excuse me, can I check out? Like, there's no need to glare. You can stop glaring at people because you don't need to use that as a way to communicate when you use words instead. So I said, excuse me, can I check out? And he was like, oh, sorry. And then he checked me out really quick. And that was that, and then he's like, oh, have a nice night. Oh, yeah, you have a nice night too. There was zero conflict. And I just feel like a lot of people don't realize that third option, the one that actually works, is available to you, because we're not really taught that. That's not on reality TV. That's not the style that most people out there are using. Most people say nothing. They'll stand at that cash register just, glaring the guy down and hoping that he notices that they're glaring at him. And then if he doesn't notice, maybe they'll yell at him and, storm off, or, oh, I'm never coming here again, or whatever. I was also at a food place not long ago, and there was a mix up, and it's like I have horrible luck. There, hundreds of people are moving through this restaurant, literally, and I'm always the person who has an issue with my order. I think it's because I do gluten free, so that's probably what it is. But almost always they're like, oh, we forgot your order, we threw your order away, like we just didn't realize that you needed that. So I'm yet again waiting, and no one was helping me, and it was like seriously like 40 minutes of waiting. So because the employees weren't helping me, I did ask to talk to the manager, not to be that person. I spoke to the manager, but again, it's how you do it. How you do it. You don't have to be angry and like putting them down and condescending. You can just neutrally say, "Hey, can I talk to your manager?" Like you don't need to do anything else. So fine, and then they couldn't find the manager, and the manager finally came over. The manager was angry because it's like she thought that I was going to be angry. So she was like getting ready for that fight. So she's like, like not like she was even angry at me, but it was almost like she was protecting herself by trying to be angry, just assuming that I was going to yell at her. Again, look how common this style is, that she thought I was going to yell at her. So then the first thing she did was she started yelling at some of her employees. Like that would appease me. And I'm like, oh, you don't have to yell at them. Like, I mean, these are sweet little high school kids. Like, I don't want these kids yelled at. That's not going to get me my food. But to her, again, she's using that other style. So she thinks that if she yells at them, that's going to make me feel like good or something. That's not what I want. So I just, again, focused on like, yeah, this is frustrating. But okay, this is my order, and okay, they're going to make it again. Okay, fine. So it got worked out. It was totally fine. And at the end, I think she was surprised that, like, I wasn't even yelling at her. She was actually the only one yelling. Because I think, again, that she assumed I would be yelling at her. So she kind of went into battle mode. And then by the end, I think she realized that I was not planning on yelling at her. I didn't want her to yell at the other employees. And I told her, you know what? Let's just figure this out. And then it was fine. And I had no residual anger or anything. And you know how it is when you don't speak up, you get this horrible anger, and you'll just stay angry all day because you just keep thinking that's so wrong. I was waiting there for 40 minutes and no one helped me, no one even cared, I didn't even get my food, and you'll just stay angry. So expressing your feelings is really important to getting them out, but you want to do so in a way that does not put down anybody or shame anybody. So I hope that was helpful for you guys. It was something that, took me a long time to figure out, but I've been doing it for so long now. I don't know exactly how long. I want to say maybe 8 or 9 years. So it's gotten to be really second nature that I even forgot about it. But I remembered it today and thought, I think other people could find this helpful, because it's not something that they really teach like in schools. And if you don't come from a background where you're taught this, which a lot of people aren't, because like I said, this is the common style, it just makes everything less stressful, and it also draws you closer to other people, because when people see that you're not out to put them down, you're not out to attack them, you don't think you're better than them, you're just trying to figure something out, they usually are actually very understanding across the board. Like, they're not going to tend to attack you or whatever. I mean, and there might be some people who do, and that kind of tells you something about how close you want to get to them if they can't handle problem solving, which I do think most people can handle problem solving pretty well. But yeah, I mean, there might be some people who don't. But anyway, just to sum up, you might want to write this down. You want to express and problem solve. Just flatly, neutrally, no manipulation, no like, do you really think that was a good idea that you did that? That's manipulation. You don't want to do that. That's attacking, that's shaming. Just neutral. And I like the word frustrated because frustrated is angry, but it's a little bit less scary of a word. Like when you say I'm angry to someone, it's kind of scary. Like, you're angry. Are you going to punch me right now? Like, people get, their tail kind of goes up a little bit when you say that word. So I like the word frustrated. Um, okay, my computer just like froze for a second. My computer is expressing its feelings to me right now, I guess. But anyway, express, problem solve. Don't put down, shame, manipulate, or rage, and focus on the problem solving. It's just like, it's so much more relaxing to live that way. So I hope you guys enjoyed that little tip. Give it a try. Let me know in the comments how it works out for you, or let me know in the comments what you think your style is. If you are the express problem solve, or if you're the put down shame rage, which is more popular today. Yeah, just let me know which one you think you have grown up being taught to do, because it is something that we're really taught to do. And yeah, let me know how that goes. Again, my name is Julie Malillo. I'm a life coach here in Manhattan. I've been coaching for a really long time. So if you're interested in coaching, go to my website. And if I'm accepting clients, it will say so on the page. And you can click right there and get rates and set up a session ASAP. Thanks for watching, guys.